Hey, this is Michael Lindsay. We're out here testing the all-new Yoshimura RS-12 exhaust system on the 2020 Suzuki RM-Z450. So if you've been paying attention to kind of the main racing circuit for the last 2 years, you have probably seen this exhaust specifically on the RCH Yoshimura Suzukis when they were still around, and then it has transferred over to the JGR bikes. That's because they've had this thing in development for over 2 years now. The first versions we saw then were handmade. This is a final production version with all the tooling to be able to pump these out in larger numbers. And the reason, of course, they're doing all that development is there's quite a few changes to it. It's not just a different looking exhaust system, but starting at that point, it does have quite a bit different design features and characteristics. And the main reason for the asymmetrical shape you see here is to try to maximize the can's overall volume while still getting all the clearances needed. We have as much rounded area out here to maximize that volume while still maintaining the right shape on the inside for good tire clearance, design down below to clear all of your brake caliper designs depending on what bike this is actually going on at the end of the day, albeit the one I'm holding today is for the Suzuki RM-Z450. And the reason they are trying to maximize the volume is that's kind of the name of the game for them. We're trying to maintain lower sound levels, trying to maximize the power and keep it there. If your exhaust gets blown out, that packing gets broken down, your exhaust is going to get louder and you're going to lose performance. So the idea here is to get an exhaust that's going to last you as long as possible and maintain that peak performance at all times. So once again, as with almost all Yoshimura systems, when required, it is rubber mounted. That's to try to relieve a lot of the stress from the subframes of the bikes when needed and try to reduce extra vibration or stiffness at the rear half of the bike. The most striking design feature of the RS-12 is definitely the new end cap, and that's for a good reason why it has been redesigned compared to the RS-4. The old RS-4, the end cap, specifically the carbon area, was part of the structure of the can itself. If you were to crash and break one, you could actually expose internals of the can, your packing, you were going to lose performance. Look, we know it. Everybody falls down, and the end of the exhaust can be a damage point. So now, it's more of an aesthetic feature per se. The rest of the can is protected, has its own structure, so if you do damage the end cap, it does not really cost you any performance or won't mess you up in a race or any situation like that. Now, the rest of this end tail piece has been changed as well. It has a new PTF, Precision Taper Fit system here, so now the insert has been redesigned, and they've really worked on the way they have machined out the insert, the way they've built this taper in here to just make that simple as can be. Because trust me, if you've ever tried to take one of these out on a competitor's exhaust system, you know that this can be an absolute nightmare. And then the insert itself is just held in by a simple little bolt here at the end, which is accessible through this rubber plug in the end cap. The last notable upgrade in the RS-12 system comes throughout every part of the system that has a slip fit joint. They've actually changed it over to machine joint fit. And the reason for that is pretty much no matter how you try to get around it, when you roll tubing, it is pretty darn near impossible to keep it as a 100% perfect circle. So yeah, while you can get a good fitting exhaust system, the first time you put it together, it slides in all nice on the bike. As soon as it's been on that bike a little bit, I'm sure you've experienced it when you go to take off just the exhaust system, when you're pulling the subframe off, pulling the shock off or something, everything gets all binded up and tight because you have two different tubes that aren't perfectly circle catching on each other. They're starting to gald into each other with movement. They've really gone through the effort of making these machined out joints that are perfectly round, so they just pops right in and out, so smooth. And this is big on long-term durability with this exhaust. You can take this thing off hundreds of times and you're still going to maintain that ease of slip with that joint. Out of the box, the Suzuki RM-Z450 just has that old school 4-stroke feel. It definitely has good off the bottom punch. It's not exactly a very clean roll on, and it's got decent mid-range, tends to sign off early and just have this really heavy engine inertia feel, just a really slow revving character. Easy to ride, but at times it's just not very playful, not very modern. Through the RS-12 on, definitely a lot better right off the bottom, a little more of an initial crisp feel, a little more connected, almost like the mapping's been cleaned up just with the way the exhaust system has been built and worked on that. And then mid-range, there's some small gains throughout, and then up top is where you feel the biggest difference, where the overall motor just has a bit more free character, a little bit quicker rev up and rev down, and it just carries quite a bit better at the higher RPM. It just gives that Suzuki 450 definitely that more modern touch. Although the RS-12 definitely has plenty of features on board to expand the lifespan of the overall product and keep it on your bike longer, there's still a really solid warranty from Yoshimura if there's anything manufacturing related, and if you manage to damage the exhaust in any ways during a crash or just any of your usual usage, they have a full rebuild system. You can hit them up directly and they can get that thing looking like it's brand new right out of the package.